Okay, Scott, I don't see Mayor Foster yet. Is he here?
I don't. Give me 1 second here. I'm just going to see if he's got technical issues because he's here and he's ready. So he might be stuck on there. Just bear with me.
Okay.
I'll go check it out here.
Okay. Meanwhile, I'll do my part. So I am going to go ahead and get started, and then by the time Scott and Mayor Foster come back, we should be ready to go with them. So just good morning, everyone. I want to take a minute to note that this meeting is being recorded and that it will be posted on the Chamber's YouTube channel. So just keep that in mind. And I want to thank you for joining us this morning. I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held in the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality in Treaty 8 territory, and we acknowledge all of the First Nations who have lived, traveled, and gathered on these lands. Before I turn the virtual podium over, I do want to take a moment just to wish everyone a Happy New Year. I know we're now kind of a little bit past that, but I hope that you were able to enjoy a holiday season with some family and friends despite the times that we're living in. Kind of hard to believe we are entering the third year of this pandemic. Businesses continue to face challenges that change on an almost daily basis, so have had to be incredibly resilient. And I just wanted to let people know that the Chamber recently received some grant funding, and we have a new campaign up and running called Love Local Northern Rockies. Just want to take a moment that if anybody would like more information on that or would like to participate, to give us a call here at the Chamber and we can make sure that happens for you. A couple of housekeeping items. I have started everyone out in mute, and I'm going to ask you to remain muted unless you're speaking. I'm so sorry. I hope nobody's hearing the noise that I'm hearing in my background, just to eliminate some of that background noise. Please feel free to type any questions you may have into the chat or raise your hand. I'll try to keep an eye out, and we'll go from there. And I think, Scott, I see you're back. Do we have Mayor Foster?
He just had some technical difficulties. He's joining the meeting. You should see him any second. Bev?
Excellent. And so good. Good morning, Mayor Foster. There you are.
Good morning.
Good morning. There you is. Okay, I've kind of done my spiel, so I'm going to put you on the spot immediately and turn this podium over to you. I will keep an eye on the chat room as well as watch for hands going up.
So thanks, Bev, and thanks for inviting me here today. You know, I've made a couple of notes here. It's unfortunate that, we find ourselves in these COVID times and we have to do everything different and we have to do everything virtual, and it's not the same as getting together. But I did make a few notes. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a rundown of some of the things we were working on in 2021. And then I'm going to be talking about some of the things we're looking forward to in 2022. I'm going to try to hit some of the high points, and then we're going to talk a little bit about property taxes that are coming up, because I know a lot of people are concerned that they've seen their assessments rise in the community. So, and then what I would like to do is I'd like to leave it open to some question and answer from the Chamber members. So, having said that, I guess I'll start right in with, 2021's been challenging for every single business across our region, and it's also been challenging for the municipality. We have about 100 employees in the municipality, and we try very hard to keep them safe during these times of COVID, as well as trying to keep the public safe. We've met all the regulations of the provincial government. And I must say that it's been a considerable stress on our employees. They come to work, they're told to do this way and this something else that way, and then the next day it changes. So it has been both frustrating and it's been concerning for them. And I know it's been the same thing for a lot of the patrons of our rec center. But we've managed to keep our staff safe. And I think we've done an excellent job in keeping the public safe as well. So having said that, the COVID restrictions are still in force. I expect that they will stay that way for at least the next month. But there are some signs that we're seeing the end of COVID-19, and I would certainly look forward to that. I am really hoping that this year we'll have a nice, robust tourist season because of all the sections of our community that have been hard hit. I think tourism has been hit the hardest, and it is really hard to watch. I hope everybody that's involved in the tourism industry and actually everybody that's been affected by COVID has made themselves have used the federal and provincial assistance programs to help them out. And if they've got any questions about, what programs that they can access, the municipality is here to help. So you can just give us a call and we will do what we can. Or of course, Bev is very aware of the programs as well. And I'm sure she'd be glad to help out anybody. We want to make sure that we get the assistance that we need so that our businesses continue in the Northern Rockies. That's a primary goal of both the chamber and the municipality. During COVID, we've continued to advocate for businesses and highlight to ministers shortcomings in their programs. We've also highlighted shortcomings, I think, in their regulations as well, where we found that they were not very, they didn't work well in the north. So we've done that. We've brought that to their attention as well. And we hope that that's helped. Those are probably things that we don't see on a day-to-day basis, but the advocacy continues with the provincial government on many levels, including COVID. Of course, there's been additional cost to the municipality to navigate COVID, got additional time off with people, et cetera, and different things that have to be put in place. The municipality has received assistance from the provincial government in making sure that that cost is covered. So that is a cost that isn't borne by the taxpayers of the Northern Rockies. So that's great news. Other things that have been affected by COVID, I think you'll remember around the beginning of the year, Central Mountain Air was going to shut down. I had meetings with Dan Davies. I had meetings with Michael Lee, the Liberal critic for transportation, and my friend Raleigh Russell, who is the Parliamentary Secretary for Rural Development. And I asked for a meeting with Minister Fleming. We got that meeting, and I made the case to Minister Fleming about the importance of having air transportation in the Northern Rockies. It was a really good conversation with Minister Fleming, and we shared a couple of anecdotes. And Minister Fleming, in the end, made sure that Central Mountain Air got the funding that they were supposed to be getting. And of course, Central Mountain Air shut down for a very brief period of time. I think it was 2 weeks rather than the indeterminate shutdown that they were looking at. So Central Mountain Air continues to fly today. And I got a call from the president of Central Mountain Air thanking us for our advocacy on their behalf. So everything worked out well in that regard. And the shutdown was pretty short, and we didn't lose our air transportation. So that was important. So I'll leave COVID there. Of course, if there's any questions at the end about COVID, glad to answer them. Moving on, our fire department in the Northern Rockies, we had above average call volumes this year. There was less than $1 million in damages this year, thanks to our fire department. And we really appreciate all the work that they do for us and do for our community. So hats off to them. We also launched a new website this year for the Northern Rockies, making it easier for citizens to access information and get messages to us as well. So we're really pleased with the website, and we hope it's working well for the citizens of the Northern Rockies. On contracts, we had a couple of major contracts. There was a grant, or the grant application for the repaving of the airport was $17.7 million. That contract came in at $14 million. 26 local contractors benefited from that. So that was a huge amount of that contract. It was all federal money coming into the community. And we had, like I say, 26 local contractors benefited from that, including hotels. The spin-off probably isn't captured here, but just individual contractors So a lot of that money for that contract did flow into the community, and we were really pleased about that. Some of our major contractors like IDL are very conscious when they come to Fort Nelson that we want to see as much of that contract put into our community as we can. And they're really good at getting, utilizing what we have in our community. And that benefits all of us. This is new money that's coming into our community. As a matter of fact, last year, this was the only time I've ever seen or I know of a municipality that received more money in grants than it got in taxation. So we received $14 million for that contract. We received another $5 million, the IDCA from the government, which I sort of look at as a grant, and other grants along the way. So this is money that's coming in from the federal and provincial government, does us a lot of good in our community, and it's it's an example of how our staff here work very hard to make sure that we get as many grants as we can, and that offsets the taxation burden on the municipality, and it gets things like our municipal or our airport paved, and it gets a lot of other things in our communities. So, and of course, they continue to look for these grants as well. I'll move on to a couple of resolutions from our council. We partnered with the Chamber of Commerce to file an intervention with the BC Utilities Commission regarding Fortis BC rates. We filed an intervention with the Radio and Television Commission as well. Their regulatory framework within the CRTC, and the municipality continues to focus on healthcare. Give you a bit of an update here on Peak Renewables. I'm in contact with them usually weekly to see how their project is moving along. I think it's moving along well. They have the fiber they need. I think they've accomplished all their goals. They're working on the transportation part with CN, and unfortunately, with the floods down south, a lot of their meetings with CN were pushed off. So they had rescheduled them for January 11th, and then a few of the people at CN got COVID, and that got pushed off again. They're going to have some meetings with the people in CN who can make decisions, and they can do that. They're going to do that February the 9th. So I'll be looking forward to reaching out to Mr. Nicolishan of Peak Renewables and seeing how those talks are coming. But he seems to be very optimistic, and I'm optimistic too that we're going to get some movement here in forestry. This year, for the first time in about 12 years, there's logging in the Northern Rockies. In the community forest, we're going to be harvesting 40,000 cubic meters of wood. 10,000 cubic meters of wood is designated for local use. So that's good. We're going to start to see a little bit of our forest being used here locally to create jobs. The other 30,000 is going to be sold, and that money is going to go into the community forest to help them bulk up and get some staff, et cetera, for next year, for when I anticipate we're going to have a rather robust logging program with Peak Renewables. So, and also Peak Renewables continues to engage with other forestry industry partners, and continues to look at forestry within the Northern Rockies. So the idea is that Peak Renewables will have the pellet plant, and then there will be several other companies that will utilize the forest fiber in our area and create jobs. Northern Rockies received vaccines a little earlier than other communities throughout British Columbia. This was due to Northern Health. Originally, they had said that communities that are 2,500 or smaller, that have a significant First Nations population in the region, would get these vaccines around the beginning. I believe it was the beginning of January, but I'm not sure. This excluded Fort Nelson, but after talking to Kathy Aldridge and making the case for Fort Nelson, and I think there was an awful lot of other people that were working on this as well, we did get those vaccines about 6 weeks before everybody else. So that was a considerable win, I think, for the Northern Rockies to get our citizens vaccinated as soon as possible and protect as many people as we can. So as we continue to navigate COVID-19, I think that was an accomplishment for us, and I think it kept our citizens safe. I was looking at the statistics last night of COVID-19. There have been over 32,000 Canadians killed from COVID-19 since this began. And although those numbers are staggering when you look at the performance of our country versus our neighbors to the south, we have about a third the number of deaths as they do in the United States. Our healthcare system is held up, and it's held up well, and it served the people of Canada well. We still have, we've still lost almost as many people as the population of Whitehorse, but it could have been far worse. And I think our healthcare system is something that we should be proud of, because in this case, it saved an awful lot of lives. I had the great pleasure to be the MC of the announcement for the geothermal plant with Seamus O'Regan, the Federal Minister of Natural Resources, and Murray Rankin, Indigenous Reconciliation Minister for British Columbia, and of course, Chief Gale. And that was a great pleasure to be MC of the launch of this very important development in the Northern Rockies. Chief Gale has worked very hard, to get economic development in our community, and she continues to work on that. They're partnering with Peak Renewables to get this pellet plant off the ground. The geothermal project is a $90 million project, a multi-year project that's going to generate clean, renewable electricity in our area. It's going to provide jobs, and it's going to provide surplus heat that can be used for greenhouses, et cetera, et cetera. And this is going to create a lot of employment, both during the construction and after it's done. So the economic development that First Nations is doing is a huge benefit to our community. It shouldn't be underestimated. And hats off to Chief Gale and her council for working so hard on these things. I noted Chief Gale was a keynote speaker at the resource forum that's actually underway now. I think Chief Gale spoke on day one. A lot of people complimented Chief Gale on her presentation, and so do I. So I'm on bi-weekly calls with Northern Health. Talk about the twin epidemic of opioid crisis and COVID-19. And we keep in touch with Northern Health for developments in their healthcare system and up-to-date COVID mandates from the provincial government. We also worked with CryoPeak this year. I actually talked to Mr. McCallum last week. They are looking at perhaps expanding in the not too distant future. They're trying to get more and more contracts, and he had somebody he wanted me to reach out to in the Yukon. They were talking about moving concentrate to the railhead here, and that would be nothing but a benefit to our community as well. So we're working on things like that, and I hope CryoPeak does well. I hope they expand their liquefied natural gas facility in Fort Nelson. Moving on, Nonda Creek Bridge. Northwest Tel operated the Nonda Creek Tower, and they decided to abandon that tower, which meant that they were no longer going to be maintaining the road. And they took the position that they were going to remove the bridge, which would have isolated an outfitter, and it would have meant that we couldn't get up the Nonda Creek Road. Mr. Barry negotiated favorable terms, I guess you would say, with Northwest Tel. So the money that they were going to spend to decommission that bridge is being given to the municipality. And we will be maintaining that bridge from now until, I think, forever. So we're now the proud owners of a bridge. Boreal Caribou Recovery Program. We continue to work on that. We met with Mr. Chris Cooper of Forestry a couple of times last month to discuss next steps on the Caribou Recovery Program. And we continue to work with the province and, of course, First Nations on the Caribou Recovery Program because it is so important to our region. We have a continued focus on tourism, and our tourism strategic plan is going to be presented or was presented in December of 2021, and it's going to for final review this month. Gotta Go program. As you'll all probably be aware, the outhouses at Trutch are installed, and we're going to have more of those as well. So, and they're going to have repeater stations so that you can use your cell phone when you're at those areas, those pull-offs. So that's going to be good news. Also, blue boxes are going to be installed up the highway. These are boxes that you can reach 911 simply by lifting the receiver. And that'll be important for traffic, tourism traffic in the future going north. Before this, of course, you would run into spots where you didn't have cell service. So it's very important that people are able to contact the authorities in case of emergency. I'll move on then to what we're looking at in 2022. And I'll speak a little bit about taxation for the municipality. We're going to continue to focus on COVID-19, at least for the next few months. And as long as those provincial mandates are in place, we'll continue to abide by them and make sure that the public is safe. We have a very keen focus on our essential services. We don't need our essential services like our fire department or our water department coming down with COVID-19 and crippling our emergency services. So we're very careful about that.
Mayor Foster, may I jump in?
Jump in.
Just because this is a topic that really relates to the question that was sent to me. It was sent to me directly, so other people aren't seeing it necessarily. Okay. But the City of Fort St. John has implemented a COVID policy for staff and suppliers. Is the NRRM considering anything similar? So maybe if you could touch on that.
This was brought up with council, but this did not pass. So no, the short answer is no. I don't think we're considering that policy at the moment.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. We continued to work on the 2022 budget. The assessment rules have been completed, was released. The overall assessment increased to $101 million over the 2021 assessment. That's for residential. Residential class had an overall increase of approximately $58 million, an increase of 22% within that tax class. And was 57% of the total increase. Business class increased by $2 million. I'm sorry, decreased by $2 million. It was a 1% decrease. And industry actually increased by $45 million, a 4% increase. So what we're seeing here in the Northern Rockies is we're seeing an increase in residential tax or residential assessments, which is pushing up the amount of taxes that residences will pay in the Northern Rockies versus what industry and what commercial will pay. So we have talked about this in past years. Every time I've done a presentation to the chamber, that we are seeing the shift out of the industrial and into the commercial and residential areas. So I guess if there's a silver lining here, property values are stabilizing in the Northern Rockies, and we're not seeing this descent that we've seen before where we've had huge amounts of losses and, you know, people have gone bankrupt and lost their homes, and so many foreclosures have hit the market. That seems to have all washed out, and it looks like residential property values are beginning to increase. So just for comparison, in 2021, residential made up 16% of the tax levy that the municipality collects. This year, it'll be 18%. businesses in 2021 paid 9% of the tax levy of the Northern Rockies, and this year it'll pay 8%. The largest taxpayer, the industrial base, went from 75% down to 73%. So we are going to see a shift into the residential taxation, but the overall tax levy that the municipality levies on has gone down. And I think I have a graph here that I wanted to share with you. Maybe Mr. Barry would have that. It just shows what the tax levy has been over the past 5 years or so. The municipality has steadily gone down. Excuse me. It must be one of those Zoom meeting things where you forget to turn off your phone. But we're going to fix that right now. The tax levy that we collect has gone down for the past 4 years. We collect less money each year in taxation than we did the year before. And that's because the people of the Northern Rockies are finding efficiencies and they're tightening their belts, and they recognize that taxation is a real concern to the people of the Northern Rockies. And we want to struggle to provide the same service with less taxation. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts of our strategy to reduce taxation for the people of the Northern Rockies. Mr. Barry may be able to find that graph, and I think it's very illustrative. We shave off between $250,000 and $500,000 every year off of our budget. Now, of course, this can't continue forever. Inflation acts on this, and our wages continue to rise and the cost of things continue to rise. So we won't be able to do this forever. But they certainly do try to run an efficient operation at the municipality here. And I think that's a credit to the people who work for this organization. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to ask if there's any other questions. MLA Davies, ask me something.
I was going to say, Scott should be able to screen share if he does want to throw that graph up. And I have another question here regarding Northern Health. There was a council resolution to submit a letter requesting an audit of Northern Health, and just wondering if you maybe can elaborate on that a little for us.
Sure. So Northern Health, it started, I think, in the Peace region, that they were calling on the Attorney General, or not the Auditor General, to audit Northern Health. The reason was that they found that Northern Health was not being as responsive as they thought they should be, and they recognized that there was these problems within Northern Health, recruiting people for such positions as we've got vacancies in as lab technicians. So they saw some real failings here in our healthcare system, and they were calling on the Auditor General or the Minister of Health to have a performance audit of Northern Health. We've joined in that. I just signed letters yesterday to the Minister of Health asking for an audit of Northern Health. I don't think this is something to throw Northern Health under the bus with. Northern Health receives a certain amount of money, and they're tasked with providing a certain service. When they can't get sufficient nursing staff, it is not a problem of Northern Health. It's more systemic than that. And I think an audit of Northern Health might just show that our Northern Health is underfunded, that we have a shortage of nurses, that the province needs to do something about. There's a shortage of lab techs, and other things that are in the system that need to be changed. So that letter has been sent off to Adrian Dix, been sent off to the Auditor General. I believe, Mr. Davies, you'll be getting a copy of that too. I just signed it yesterday, so you might not have it yet. Yeah, so that's about the nuts and bolts of that.
Sorry, I keep forgetting to unmute. Does anybody have any questions? I'll invite you to just unmute and ask them directly of Mayor Foster. Must be some questions out there.
While we're waiting, I just wanted to say that BC Hydro has decided not to go ahead with their 8-hour planned outage. I think that was a concern of the community, and that I talked to Mr. Gammer this morning, and they won't be going ahead with that outage.
I see Ben's unmuted. Go ahead, Ben.
Good morning, Mayor Foster. Thank you for the update. You mentioned in your update that Peak Renewables had the fiber that they needed. Could you please further define that a little bit? Because there's been no announcement or discussion that I have seen about any further licenses being issued. So for more volume of fiber. So please elaborate on that, please.
So Ben, all I can tell you is that the license had been transferred from Canfor. They've negotiated some things with the community forest, and whatever other fiber they have from the Ministry of Forest, they seem to be satisfied with it. And I don't know what the particulars are of that, but they are satisfied. They have the fiber that they need. So whatever negotiations or promises that the Ministry of Forest has entered into with them, they are satisfied.
Okay, anybody else? Maybe while we're waiting, Mayor Foster, could you or Scott maybe elaborate on the budget process this year, and if there's, Claude, I'll hold that thought for a minute because I see Claude Normando. Absolutely, you should be able to unmute yourself, Claude. There we go.
There, figured it out.
There he is.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Claude, how's it going?
Oh, good. So I just want to ask about commercial property. So over, oh boy, it's several years now, probably measuring more in the decades since we've owned commercial property in Fort Nelson. I've seen quite a bit of competition from the town. They since have created a fair bit of commercial property. Also, a huge concern of mine, and this is the first time I've ever said anything about it, but residential has been competing, and I really feel that the town hasn't protected commercial. I can't mention industrial because my land does cross into two sides there, so it's industrial / commercial, but we're just not, I don't think we're looked after very well. You know, the whole industrial park has suffered since the town has built property. Sure, you haven't had many tenants move in there, but the potential is still there. And the one that in my opinion is really bad is the residential competition. You know, if it's zoned for that, then maybe I could build houses on the industrial land that I have.
Yeah. So Claude, I mean, I've got 2 industrial properties, and you know, most of them are vacant or pretty close to vacant, and I think I've, you know, suffered right along with the rest of everyone. I don't, you know, I see this vacant land in Fort Nelson that was developed by the municipality. I'm not a big fan of municipalities developing land. That just as a, I just don't think they should be in the development business, but that's just my personal opinion, and perhaps the council would see things differently. I know for sure, I mean, no council would want to see us develop any land under these circumstances here. But when I see the amount of land that was put on before, I don't think that's healthy. I think private industry needs to get in and do something when there's a need. As far as residential competing with commercial, there are home-based businesses. They are allowed under the zoning bylaws for some things. Every few years, the zoning bylaws get reviewed, and I believe the next review is coming up probably after this term in office. I would suspect early in the next term. And it would be an opportunity for people to, voice their concern about how they feel, what should be allowed in residential areas and what should be allowed in commercial areas. But Claude, if there's something going on in a residential area that is not zoned or is not proper, please give the municipality a call, because we will act on bylaw infractions. But the important thing is that you give us a call and you tell us it's confidential. Nobody knows you phoned. And it's simply a call to say this activity is going on residential property, and that zoning is, and it should be done in a commercial area. So please give us a call if that's going on. I hope that helps, Claude. And if there's other concerns like that, you can give me a call, you can give the town a call. Glad to move that forward. And when the time comes that the zoning is going to be relooked at, I hope you come forward. And I personally, from being in the real estate business, I am a big fan of keeping residential, and keeping commercial. Other people on council may have a different view, and I might not be here in 4 years or when this comes up for review in the next term. So, but please bring that forward.
Okay. I just feel over the many years, at one time we were paying something close to 70,000 a year in property taxes for our local area. And I just didn't feel that we were represented very well during that time. Sure, today it's a lot less through, the help of the town lowering the taxes. I think our Finning property at one time was close to 50,000, so times have changed. But anyway, yeah. I think with a little bit of help here and new businesses coming in, they really need to be guided to the appropriate properties. Like right now, we've got 2 tenants on several lots that we own out there. And, sure, there's not much going on, but still, I think some of the businesses that are located in town, since that road was built at the airport, that was a sword through our heart when that happened years ago. It completely changed the dynamics of our welding, machining, and rental business at the time. Thank God that the rentals, we basically catered to Calgary only, and a lot of the US as well, the American oil companies. So that helped. But today, if we didn't have the wherewithal to carry this, it would be bad. So all I'm asking for is some help from the town.
Yeah, and Claude, I'd be glad to have a conversation about this, because this sounds like it's right up my alley. I mean, I've had a shop in town there where 12,000 square feet, and you couldn't pay somebody to rent it. And I really believe that even though I think we're on the right track here with getting forestry restarted in our community, this may not help these shops in town. And I'm talking about large commercial shops. I think the only thing that's going to save them is a rejuvenation of the oil and gas industry, and that may be a ways away. But I notice the prices are rising, and I hope it takes hold. And I firmly believe that there are better days ahead for the Northern Rockies, both in the oil patch and in the forestry business and in tourism.
Okay. Thank you for your consideration in this, and at least I'm on the record now. It's the first time I've ever really chirped up about it. So
no, it's good. It's good to chirp. It's good to chirp. And Claude, you've got my number. You phone me anytime.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else? Scott, I saw you briefly flip that chart up. Did you want to do that now?
I'll see if I can get it 2 in a row here. I was struggling here. I apologize. I'm on my iPad, so it's a little bit different when I navigate this, but I'll give it a whirl. So just bear with me. And if you could see this, let me know. Can you see that?
You betcha.
Okay, so this is just a representation of where the tax levy from 2016 to 2021 budget sat when we did the the budget reviews last year. That number for 21 has changed and adjusted a bit when we do the final numbers, but it's still representative. And based on the mayor's point relating to the tax levy, with the revenues through taxation to make up the budget after factoring grants and not in revenues. It shows that there's been a steady decline in required tax levy for the region or for the municipality or over the past years. So if there's any questions or anything regarding that, I'm happy to take them.
Well,
I don't know how long you want me to leave it up there, Bev, but
yeah, we probably don't need to leave it up too long because I think it is interfering with your bandwidth a little, but
okay.
Just open up if anybody does have any questions. Feel free to unmute.
I want you to know that Mr. Barry does not work out of a culvert, even though it sounds like he's inside of a does not work out of a culvert. He has a nice office. It's not as nice as Dan Davies' office, but you know, it's okay.
I'll maybe go back to the question I was about to ask Mayor Foster, and that is around the budget process for 2022. Do you have any sense of how that's moving forward and when public opportunities to engage maybe?
Mr. Barry has the timelines for this. We're going to be meeting and talking about the budget here and voting on it as we go forward, but there is going to be a public engagement period. And of course, because of COVID-19, it's not going to be the same as it usually is. I would prefer the public coming in and looking at the numbers and asking questions, and you know, people taking an interest in the taxes that they pay here in the Northern Rockies, because we put a lot of work into trying to reduce those taxes to keep more money in people's pockets. I would just prefer an in-person meeting. It may not be possible this year with COVID-19, and that's unfortunate. But we will be doing something. We may be doing Zoom meetings like this, and that'll be a substitute for it. But it's not my preference.
I can chime in a bit too, Bev, if you like, and Mayor. So starting next week, we're going to start doing our preliminary review with council. So of course that'll be streamed live. We're gunning for probably Wednesday or Thursday at noon to start, but it's a council meeting, so those dates will be, of course, published in advance, and the Zoom links and the preliminary review with council will go over the budget document as it sits today as a draft document, and then when council gets a good opportunity to review it and ask any questions, then we'll go to a public process. Now, with that said, at any time, because the document is now will be published as part of the council meetings that are coming up to review the budget. So at any time, the public has the opportunity to reach out, ask questions, contact staff, ask their elected official, anything specific to the budget. And of course, during the council meetings is an opportunity to ask questions too from the public. So that'll occur here in the next couple of weeks. When council has an opportunity to review that document, then we'll go to a bit of a stronger public engagement process where we get the messaging out there through our various platforms. That will also include a process where typically we did the open house. Unfortunately, with the current restrictions and concerns around COVID, we probably won't do the open house process as we've done in the past. Similar to last year, we didn't do it. So last year, what we did is a session in the evening where we had council available to answer any questions, and it was more of a virtual open house. So it's another opportunity for people to ask any questions regarding the budget. And then once we get past that, the intent is about mid-March to do any required adjustments and put forward the final budget document to council for their approval. So everything will be, all the information will be posted on our various platforms, our website and our Facebook page.
Perfect. Thanks, Scott. Just want to thank Chief Gale for her comments in the chat. Thank you, Mayor Foster and Council. It's been refreshing working with your government in the spirit of reconciliation and community pride. We have a lot of work to do going forward, but I appreciate the solution-based approach we take to overcome our challenges. Keep up the good work. And I would just actually like to add my congratulations to Chief Gale and Fort Nelson First Nations on the Clark Lake geothermal project. And we are hoping to be able to do a presentation with your staff on that, or your project coordinators on that project, and get more information out into the community as a whole here in the near future.
And so I want to say something about Chief Gale, and I think a lot of people in our community do not understand exactly how well respected Chief Gale is throughout the province. And she does a lot of work on the Major Projects Coalition, and she is very well respected by the ministers, and she is a true credit to our municipality. Every time I speak to ministers, they bring up Chief Gale and the work that she's done. Not just for the people of Fort Nelson First Nations, but for the Northern Rockies together. And Chief Gale and I have spoken very often about the fact that, we're two very distinct people with two very different histories, but we are one community, and we're going to go forward together. And I couldn't be more pleased that Chief Gale is the leader of Fort Nelson First Nations.
Thanks, Mayor Foster. We are going to open it back up. I see we are getting close. We're about 10 minutes out from closing the meeting. So this is the time to get your questions in while we have their undivided attention. But I also would like to remind you, and Mayor Foster, you said this as well, that if you do have questions or you have any concerns at all, I really encourage you to contact Mayor Foster, contact Scott Barry or the other staff, and ask those questions directly. I know that they're generally more than willing to sit down and explain things and have that conversation. And there may be things they're unaware of as well, that if we stay silent, we can never find solutions. So
that's why things like what Claude brought up today are so important, that, Claude needs to reach out and tell me about these problems, because of course I don't know about all the problems there are out there. And I'm glad to listen to people's different perspectives. Of course, sometimes we don't always share those perspectives, but we're here to listen to them. And you're right, Bev. My phone number is 500-1060. You can phone me on the weekends. You can phone me in the evenings. You can phone me whenever you'd like. So, we're easy to get a hold of. It doesn't have to be just during business hours. It can be whenever something strikes you that you think you might want to have a conversation about. We're glad to be there for you.
okay, I'm going to open it one more time to questions, and I might be able to give people 10 minutes back in their day, which is always a little bit of a gift.
Maybe we can get Dan Davies to talk about his upcoming leadership convention.
Oh.
I think that is an exciting thing about who's going to be the next leader of the Liberal Party.
Well, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? I think so.
Yep.
Sorry, I was a little bit late. I was having some issues signing in and whatnot, but of course, I don't want to be too political, so I'll talk very high level. Yes, we are in the middle of a leadership race to elect a new leader, and as of the 5th, the new official opposition leader. So that'll be pretty exciting for that. Maybe just to touch on a couple things there, Mayor Foster, that you had mentioned on. You talked about the hospital audit, or the audit of Northern Health. That is, certainly something that there's now been a few municipalities, that have jumped on board with that. Myself and Mayor Ackerman both spoke with Minister Dick some time ago, and said that we do need this independent, I think is key, audit of, what is going on, good things, bad things. It's we need to do things differently. And we've seen that across the Northern Health region. Of course, Carol Bellringer did the Bellringer report in, there was an audit by the Auditor General back in 2018. So we don't want to duplicate that. There was a number of recommendations that came out of that audit that have yet to be fulfilled. So we need to make sure, and I don't know if you guys have seen that or not. There's a number, I can flip it into the message here in just 2 seconds. A lot of recommendations came out of that haven't been filled, but we need to be looking at doing things differently. Our healthcare is suffering, and we need to find ways to improve that. Of course, we do have one thing that I do want to certainly get out. Of course, we are back in the legislature. Spring session starts February 7th, where we will be back in Victoria until the first week of June. Of course, the budget will be coming out, I think, on the 15th with throne speeches. I got to look at my calendar now. Yes, the throne speech is on the 8th of February, and then the budget will be presented on the 15th of February. I encourage you, and certainly Bev through the chamber, to forward any questions that you might have regarding the budget to myself, and I will ask those on your behalf to the prospective ministers that you have the questions. I would also ask, I see there's a number of people on the screen here. Maybe if you do reach out to Bev and she can compile any questions or concerns that you have in the budget, and I will bring those up. Obviously, of course, Mayor Foster, the municipality as well. If you have any questions, I will ask those on your behalf. So that is coming up. Of course, the budget's going to be the big thing that happens throughout the spring session. It's presented on the 15th. And it is in budget. It goes into committee where we basically get to ask questions of each of the ministries over the coming months. So please do get your questions in. I've had lots of questions around infrastructure. Of course, with the floods, the incredible damage that has happened on the highways, whether it be Highway 5, 97, 99. Those are multi-billion-dollar repairs that need to be done to those highways. And my big goal now is to make sure, and this is maybe more for you, Mayor Foster, and your staff, to let me know these, your top critical infrastructure projects that you are looking at, some provincial funding for. If you can get those to me, we need to make sure that we are not ignored up here in the north. Sure, the highways are important, but there is the rest of the province that still needs to be looked after. So we want to make sure that that those pieces are there, as well as for Chief Gale, if there's any provincial funding that that your band is looking at, just so I'm aware and I can bring these up in the legislature during my discussions with the different ministers. Rail, you talked a little bit about rail earlier. I have also just recently had a meeting with CN. Of course, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the Fort Nelson rail line and stress the importance of that. And I'm sure CN has told you this as well. They do consider it important in their assets, and will continue to do what they can to improve that. So they did tell me that. It's now, if we see it happening on the ground, I think is the different thing, and we got to make sure that we are continuing to hold CN to the fire on making sure that that rail line is kept, because we all know that that is a key part of the economic recovery for the Northern Rockies area. So, and finally, of course, the boundary changes. We are still working on that. They are looking at redrawing the boundaries across British Columbia. The biggest negative impact is going to be in rural BC, including Peace River North and Peace River South. The basic, what it looks like is going to happen is that they're going to be combined into one massive riding, which of course, unfortunately, deteriorates representation in the north and adds those seats into the lower mainland. So we're continuing to push back and hoping residents and organizations across the province, and we've had a number, chambers and municipalities have written the government and said, this isn't a good idea, to make sure that, the rural ridings are protected as they have been over the last number of years. So there will be more information coming out on those. Hopefully, our biggest worry is with COVID, that they're going to move all the community consultations online, which of course, that Zoom is nice to have, but it still doesn't beat face-to-face, having a commission sitting facing 500 people and looking them in the eyes. And we're hoping that there are some face-to-face ones. So I'm going to leave it with that. I know you gave me just a minute and I rambled on, so I'll leave it with that.
Thanks very much, Dan. I'm just going to add in a couple of little things based on your comments. So the Fort Nelson Chamber has also written to the Auditor General and Minister Dix calling for that audit and supporting the municipalities and the regional districts in that request. And we also have a policy currently in front of the BC Chamber, as well as we were just in consultations with the ministries in the early fall here, or pardon me, about October, to discuss the need for equity in the medical system for rural and remote communities. So talking about the fact that no matter where you live, we all should have equitable care. And so I just want to put that out there, and kind of we're now at 11:57. So I want to thank everyone very much for joining us today. I hope you have a great afternoon, and feel free to touch base with me with any chamber questions, of course, at any time, and with your municipality or with Dan Davies with any other questions you may have. Mayor Foster, final words?
Not really. I just want to thank everyone for being here today. It's really important that we get out and we talk to people about things in the municipality. And even if you didn't have anything to say today, as we've said before, you can stop me in the food store, you can give me a call. Always glad to hear anybody's thoughts on anything. There's no such thing as a dumb question. And I'm always glad to answer them. Certainly hope that Dan Davies' riding does not get redistricted. And I spoke to Michael Lee about this when he took the time to come up to the Northern Rockies here in his candidacy to be the leader of the Liberal Party. He comes from a small riding in Vancouver, and by small, I mean geographically small. He has no airports, no agriculture, no roads that are provincial. He has, the policing is all Vancouver. I don't know what the man does for a living, but compared to what Dan Davies has to face on a daily basis, and this is the reason why, you need rural ridings have to have representation that is not simply by population. And Dan, I am glad to take that to whatever committee is looking at this, and I would be glad to sing them my song because I think there's a huge difference between a totally urban riding and a rural riding that has got so many things: trapping, hunting, tourism, all the stuff that goes on. None of that happens in Vancouver.
And just to add, potentially they're going to get 12 more seats in the Lower Mainland under the new commission.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like we're not going to be able to cover that one in the 1 minute we have remaining.
I wanted to bring that up because I think it is important to our area. So
I agree, and the chamber will certainly be putting out information as well as when we have that, particularly around any public engagements. And we have added our voice to that. We need to maintain our representation here in the North. Okay, last call, 11:59. Everybody wants to head out for lunch. So again, thank you very much. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us. And thank you, Mayor Foster.
Thank you.
Always appreciate having you come on board and tell us what's happening.
Thanks.
All right, take care, everyone.